Hello, I'm Aperture Grills, and this is a submission video for Marathon Infinity. The category is All Main Levels on Total Carnage difficulty. This is a 1996 Macintosh first-person shooter made by Bungie, who would later go on to make Myth, Oni, and the Halo series. Marathon Infinity is the last game in the Marathon trilogy and runs on essentially the same engine as Marathon 2, which came out a year prior. However, unlike the first two games, Marathon Infinity features a non-linear storyline where the player jumps between various timelines that end in failure, and this allows us to skip a large portion of the game in the fastest route. Thus, in addition to any percent, the fastest route through the game, which in addition to skipping some levels also makes use of a level that's intended to be played in co-op, we've designated all main levels, which is a category where you visit every major intended solo level. So we are allowed to skip the secret timeline failure ending levels, but as you'll see, we end up visiting some of them anyway. As for the difficulty, this run is on Total Carnage, which is the highest of 5 difficulties the game offers. What this means is enemies will be much tougher and more aggressive and do more damage. I also take more damage from lava and lose oxygen quicker on vacuum levels, which is much more important for this category than for any percent on this difficulty, where we're allowed to skip all of the vacuum levels. So with the category and difficulty explained, I'll start the run and explain as we're going along. So after the silent first chapter screen, we're into the game. The first thing you'll notice is probably that this game has absolutely no music. Now what I just did there is important. I hit a hidden switch that the developers left in that's behind a light that opens the door to the end of the level. So now I just have to make my way to the exit. And the last thing stopping me is this solitary 4 fighter who on this difficulty takes a whole lot of pistol shots to kill. It's important not to miss because you can get knocked off and die. Now we've woken up in the second level, I have to look at my map real quick to see which direction I'm facing. And on this level, the fighters, those enemies that I'm seeing a bunch of, are actually on my side, and the enforcers that have the gun that shoots flames are against me. So I killed it carefully while avoiding death because you start this level with almost no life, and took its gun so I can attempt to shoot this switch from a distance, which saves a couple of seconds. That switch makes the wall fall, so I run through a couple of doors to the next part of the level. Here I want to be careful not to enrage the fighters by shooting them. A single shot will turn them against me. But if it happens, you just have to kill them. And then that switch makes this wall fall. And then here I'm accessing a secret, which allows us to get the assault rifle early. If you've ever seen a speedrun of a marathon game before, you'll know the assault rifle is an essential tool for getting around. It has an attached grenade launcher, and both the bullets and the grenades, when fired together, can get us many places that we could not otherwise get, because there is no jumping in this game's engine. So after mashing our way through that terminal and trying not to get hit too much, we're on to the next level. And this is where the route differences start to become apparent between this and the fastest route, because here we could normally go to what they call the co-op Carnage break level, where you're just meant to beat up on your friends. But instead we have to use our assault rifle to jump across a couple of pools without taking damage, and then do another jump right here where we do take some damage to get up to a ledge. So generally you have to be facing away from where you're going when using the assault rifle to get somewhere, and you're going to see a lot of that. The actual objective of this level is to smash this panel just behind this door. And then I try and recharge my health before leaving again, because the troopers, the purple enemies outside, are very hazardous to my health. Luckily, they usually get distracted fighting other enemies. Again, different factions of enemies are on or against you, depending on what level of the game you're on, which can be quite confusing the first time through. So this is the first level that's distinct to this category, because normally we would play a co-op Carnage break level instead. the actual objective of this level is supposedly to explore this large underwater grotto, but in fact it's just to touch a single polygon next to that little underwater pillar. So we just go there and then leave. And I can access the second part of the level through a secret door that I get to by jumping across here after running up the stairs. And we're going to start going slightly out of our way to pick up some assault rifle ammo because I'm going to use a lot of it over the course of the next couple of levels. So on this level, we see the Bobs are fighting against us, and the Hunters, those armored aliens, are fighting with us. You get to hear the voice of Doug Zartman, who voiced Bob in this game. He's one of the Bungie employees at the time. You'll hear a lot more of his voice. When you walk into this room, this wall starts falling, but we don't have time to wait for it, so we just jump over the top of it. Now, after taking a save, we are on to Electric Sheep 1. This is the first time we see this level geometry. There are 3 Electric Sheep levels that are basically identical, and they all have multiple exits. So this level that we're on now is called Where Are Monsters in Dreams? The level is meant to represent the player dreaming, and it has lots of invisible enemies that shoot at you from the walls. You won't see any of them, though, because by jumping over that bridge that falls, we can just make it to this terminal. Now, this level that I'm on is actually optional. We wouldn't have to go here. This is a failure timeline ending level, like I mentioned in the introduction. And it's pretty dangerous to be here. As you can see, there's a juggernaut in the center where I spawned, and there's a bunch of hunters. But there's also lots of weapons and ammunition. And I really want that, especially I want shotgun shells. Because for whatever reason, unlike the assault rifle, you can shoot the shotguns, which you can dual wield in this game, in a vacuum. And the next level and the level after that are both vacuum levels. Now, I could have read the terminal up in that big main room to leave, but it's a lot easier to just come down here. You don't get shot so much. Now we're on to the Rage chapter, which begins with the level Acme Station. So this is a vacuum level. My oxygen, which is the bar in the lower right, is constantly going to be depleting. And it depletes faster when I run, and it also depletes faster when I'm holding down the triggers. So anytime I'm firing, it's making my inevitable death sooner. This level has no fixed points to recharge your oxygen on, so it's truly a finite amount of time you can spend here. There are a couple of oxygen recharge tanks that spawn in, but we're only going to use one of them because we're going to get through this level very quickly. And as you can see, because all of these cyborgs are packed into these dense corridors, the only practical way to get through this fast is to kill them with the shotguns. Now this is why I go so far out of my way on the previous level to collect all this ammo, because it makes this possible. Now the goal of this level is to hit panels inside of little rooms that you teleport to, and I realized that you can actually essentially buffer your shot across the teleport. I'm not moving around at all, and I just like hold down a trigger and fire as soon as I teleport, and I listen for the noise of the panel smashing, and then I just let myself teleport back, which makes it virtually impossible for the enemies to hit you. Normally when you teleport in there, it's really cramped and you're in there with a cyborg and it's scary. Unfortunately, the last panel is in a big open room, so you can't really do this so well. I try to anyway. You can see I get hit a bunch, but I don't die, and earlier I hit a switch that opens a 2x panel. So after killing a few enemies that guard it, I'm able to get back to full 2x in preparation for post-naval trauma, which we're about to see, which is also a vacuum level. Yeah, that's right. They put 2 vacuum levels back to back in this game, and that's a lot of people's biggest complaint with it casually. So we still can't use our assault rifle. We gotta rely on these shotguns, which are arguably the most powerful weapon in the game to get through, but we have pretty limited ammo. You can see I think we started with like 63 shells and now we're down to 18. So ammo management is important. and also using the fusion pistol instead of the shotguns where it's feasible and doesn't cost too much time. So you'll see that in a moment. I'm trying to minimize how much ammunition I use killing the fighters, but that enforcer pretty much has to die. Now here, these two hunters, mechanized units, including hunters, take double damage to the fusion pistol. So even though the fusion pistol, that white gun, might seem like kind of a wimpy weapon, it does kill the hunters pretty fast. Now here's a more classic marathon level design, just an extremely thin corridor full of enemies. We're on the clock here, and we are running out of oxygen, so we just use our shotguns to blast through. The objective of this level I'm about to complete is just up these stairs, but there's another hunter guarding it. As well as some fighters that I can just take out pretty quickly. And then we are able to get back to 2x health again here. You have up to 3x health in this game, which is, so it's red is 1, yellow is 2, and then purple is 3. But you only see purple health a little bit in this game compared to the other marathon games. So now we're headed to the exit. You want to get on that rising platform before the enemies notice you, because when they notice you, they trigger it, and it's easy to get stuck. I recharged just a tiny amount of oxygen for safety here, because even though we're done with vacuum levels, at least for a while, there's a lot of swimming to be done, and swimming also uses your oxygen. So here I went a little bit out of my way to trigger all of the ammunition to spawn that I just picked up, and now I'm headed to an underwater teleporter that skips a large portion of this level. This level and the following one are meant to take place inside the same environment, and they use a neat little trick to do that. The ending room from this level is also the starting room of the next, but it's just geometry copied over. It's not actually in the same, space in the game. These shoot homing shots, so I have to be aware of what's coming up behind me. And this elevator takes us to the end. And you can see we spawn what's supposed to be across the river from the ending of the previous level. There is a chance at the beginning of this level that I instead spawn somewhere that makes you fall in the sewage, which is really lame and costs, I don't know, 10 to 15 seconds, but that didn't happen this time. Now after we've swam downwards and then swum up this really high column into like a kind of a tower or control station, there's this, I guess you could call it a puzzle, which I mess up slightly by falling into sewage, but it's not really a big deal because I have to wait for those anyway. Those switches you have to turn on to make the little blue things rise, and then turn them back off again so that they don't lower, and those are supposed to correspond to these doors that I run through there and here. The actual level objective is to smash these two circuit panels. And I use these shotguns to do that, and then the assault rifle to clear out the ending. Now, something that you're starting to see happen here is what we've taken to calling enemy overload. What that means is that the engine can only process so many monsters' AI on one frame, and so if too many monsters have been woken up, then they start kind of wigging out and just playing their activation noise over and over and over again. So now we've gone through another electric sheep level, and we're on to another dream level. This time we had to snipe that switch and then ride a raising platform. There's some more platforming you're supposed to do, but we can just use the rocket launcher to short circuit that, and then ride this elevator to the end. So now we've rejoined the any percent route. These are levels that we have to play no matter what category you're playing. This is Nah Man, He's Close. The vacuum bobs that have fusion pistols are quite dangerous to your health. They can shoot either uncharged or charged fusion shots. An uncharged shot does maybe, I don't know, 20% of your health. A charged shot does maybe 70. So you really don't want to get hit by one, and they can pump them out pretty quickly, especially when there's more than one. Throughout most of this level, it's pretty easy to avoid getting shot by them, but at the end, we'll have to run down some very long, straight corridors. Hitting that switch makes this door on our left open, so I'm able to go through that, and then hit this switch, which drops the door for us. I stay to the right side of this corridor to keep more vacuum bobs from spawning. And this is a slight shortcut to fall out this window instead of going downstairs. There's kind of a big ambush here. I didn't take it in this run as cleanly as I sometimes do, but it still worked out okay. Now, that switch is what gets us back to the earlier part of the level where we saw a terminal, and now that we're here, we get to make these stairs fall, which allows us to access the end. So we kind of went in a big circle in order to get through there. We don't know a way to skip that. So this is the section I was talking about with very narrow passageways and mobs. This is a little unfair to make you run down these super long, dark hallways with bobs shooting you in the dark. But since we know where they are, and we have some shotgun shells to spare, only one actually, we're able to shoot them. So now we're on to Foe Hammer. This level is really technical. It's very cramped. There's lots of enemies. It's super easy to die here. This is actually a slight detour to kill these two cyborgs before we have to come back to this room once the door to my left is opened. And now we're going to go to the other side of the map to do just that. But first, I decided to clean out the enemies up in this center section. Then we come back through here, and otherwise it's a much more awkward firefight where I have less health. So here I'm trying to shoot my grenades on the floor so that they hurt more than one enemy, but it's a little difficult to do that. So I actually ran out of, that noise was me trying to fire an empty gun. I ran out of bullets for my assault rifle, which proved to be only a minor problem. I need to hit a switch on the other side of this long ledge, which means getting rid of the enemies. And luckily I was able to get some infighting going on, which meant that it didn't prove to be a problem. There's another opportunity to safety save here. I should mention that for a marathon run, even though it's kind of likely that you're going to die at any given moment, there are lots of places to save, usually multiple on every level, and so any individual death doesn't cost more than like a minute. So the actual objective of this level is to hit this switch that's next to a mother of all cyborgs. We just ignore it, even though it torches us for a second, and hit the switch, which allows us to reach the end of the level. At which point they give us another can of 2x health. And we're on to Hangbrain. This level is kind of meant to suggest the same architecture and objective as Begging for Mercy Makes Me Angry from Marathon 2. It has this large donut-shaped room with a long sequence of very tall circuit panels to destroy. In world, we're supposed to be killing an AI. And unlike that level in Marathon 2, we are actually able to complete the objective without ever entering that big donut-shaped room. Which is nice, because it means we get to fight less things. So here, I'm kind of taking it careful and slow to deal with these troopers, while still keeping up the pace, hitting these switches, which allow us to progress through the level. Now, we used to wait there because we thought that the only way to hit the circuit panels that the switches open up was from those same stations, but it turns out that you can also shoot them from some other windows that overlook the donut room, and so we can speed this up a little. Basically get more of the doors falling in parallel. This is the best way for this fight to play out. A bunch of troopers come in behind me, and ideally I'm fast enough coming down, hitting the switch, and going back up that they're still crammed in the doorway, which means that they're pretty easy to dispose of. Troopers, I don't think I mentioned this yet, have essentially the same gun as your assault rifle. At long range, they will pretty much just fire grenades at you, and at close range, they'll just fire their primary. And you can see, I shot that one a lot before it actually died, so... at close range, they're really, really dangerous. At long range, they're kind of dangerous, and if you get hit by a grenade, you tend to get flung in the air and lose control. And they have a lot of health. So now I just did a little assault rifle fly, because this level is low gravity and the engine's physics are already very floaty. We were just able to fly up there and then come around inside and complete the objective. So now we are on to the third and final electric sheep level. In this one, we have to snipe that switch, and unfortunately, so all of the ticks, those enemies flying around, on Total Carnage are replaced with variants that explode violently when they die. And so that Enforcer, which was sniping at the ticks, it's just meant to be weird, I think. It did not really make sense. This level's, like, layout, but, yeah, it was shooting at the ticks, and one of the ticks died right next to me, which took out almost all my health, so I had to get that can, which was a significant detour. And now this is the exit I'm supposed to take. I took those stairs sort of risky, because at this point I knew this run was a little behind what I was aiming for. This is another dream level. I'm waiting here so that I can jump on top of that wall as it's falling. I'm taking the secret back exit to this level. There is a whole nother side to the level that you don't see in the speedrun anymore, that we used to go to, but we realized that it's faster to just go this way. So I use the rockets to knock that Enforcer off its ledge so that I have a clear space to jump to, and then once the ticks are out of the way, I use the missile launcher to get right over to it. Now this is actually a vacuum level as well, but we're only here for a second. Lots of enemies spawn in, but you can pretty much just run to the terminal and leave. That was another optional failure level, but going that way through Eat the Path and then visiting it is much faster. So now we're on to the last chapter of the game, Envy. We lose all of our weapons and equipment, and we're stuck in jail. So right now we're breaking out of jail and getting some weapons. I stand in front of that stairway in order to make the enemies come down while I'm recharging so I can run around them, because right now I only have my fists. And again, I do some movement to basically lure out the enemies so that I have free space to run around them. And one more time, I'll do the same thing here. After stepping into that dead end to make some ammo spawn that I'm going to pick up later. Now here, this is the terminal we'll leave from, but we can't leave yet because we haven't completed the objective. However, we get the assault rifle here, which we need to speed up the level. After taking this teleporter, we do a grenade hover across, and then another one. The second one is not strictly necessary, but stepping here makes this ammo spawn, and I really want enough ammo to be able to do the tricks that we do to speed up the ending of the game. So I go slightly out of my way to pick it up. The objective of this level is to smash 2 panels at the basement of this building, which are here and here. And now I have to backtrack all the way to where I got the assault rifle. used to go a different way here to get back, and it was more dangerous and not faster. So once TBCR, who is my main co-runner of this series, figured out that route, we decided to use it. Now I'm picking up that ammo that I made spawn earlier, and then I'm able to leave the level. So now we're on to what I'd say the last 2 hard levels of this game. In this level, 1,000 slimy things, the Bobs are again against us, as we're working for the AI that's the bad guy in Marathon 2. And this level has a major skip on it. You're supposed to go a really long way through this kind of twisting maze, fighting Bobs your whole way in order to get to a spot where eventually you're able to jump over, or make this pillar raise a bit and jump over it. And instead, you can just use the assault rifle to bounce up that pillar and get straight to the exit. Now this level is probably the last real run killer in the route. This has had a major change to it, as we realized that this door that I'm currently butting up against can actually warp straight through by building up enough speed. Unfortunately, the first time I tried this on this run, I died horribly because I actually got a little too much speed going through the door. Luckily, there's a save not far behind this point, so you'll see me do it again. Fire a precise amount of ammo to build up enough speed there. And these Bobs with the pistols can really do your health in fast. You can see I only barely survived here, but luckily we can recharge to full 1x. And now the goal of this level is to flood this basement with lava, which is why I had to recharge my health, because now we have to wait for this elevator to rise. So doing this versus the intended route is a massive time save. It's probably at least 4 minutes. And over the previous way that I did it, which was to jump around and take another route into the basement, if you get it first try, I think it saves probably like 30 seconds. And now we're on to what I might call the victory laps portion, though you really shouldn't think of it that way when you're doing intents. There's not a lot that can really ruin your run now, short of running out of ammo. This level has basically no combat. It's just a series of hitting switches and then eventually dumping a chip into a socket. And there's a lot of jumping around that I've routed in to make this faster than the intended way, which is just to be running up these stairs and jumping over and over again. And then there's a long jumping puzzle in this room that we are totally able to circumvent with grenade jumping, though in this run I happened to mess it up the first time. I was just being a little too cavalier about my approach. So we run across this bridge to place the chip that we picked up in the puddle in the socket, and we run back. If you fall off this bridge, fun fact, there is pretty much no way to recover from that. I don't know why that exists in this game, but yeah, you just fall off the bridge and get stuck and have to revert to your save. So after a very, very brief level, we're going to be on to the last 2 of the game. This is our one real break while we wait for this elevator to fall. This is, you think you're big time, you're going to die big time. Bungie had a penchant for very long level names in this series. It's so named because we're descending into an arena where supposedly Tycho, the AI that was trying to give us orders the whole game, is going to kill us by using superpowered gray, physically bulked up, like larger versions. I mean, they're just larger sprites, versions of the various classes of 4. The 4 are is the name of the alien race that we've been fighting against. So we could just leave now through our rocket jumping powers, but we need to stick around until this first door opens and we kill these fighters. And we actually need to make sure not to blow them up. I have to kill them with bullets, because only when they die soft, as it's called, rather than dying hard, do they drop these circuit chips. And the intent is to use these circuit chips to get to a secret on this level, but instead we can just use the rocket launcher to boost ourselves up to the end terminal and take the chip on to the next level, which was not intended. Now, this is the final level of the game. It's, when we finish this, we'll have succeeded, and the universe, or at least the galaxy, is saved. And it involves placing 2 chips in sockets. We're able to speed that up a ton by bringing a chip on from the previous level. So instead of having to go to the first chip, I can just go straight to the first socket. This level is enormous. It's actually the largest level size that this game engine supported originally. Though the source port I'm playing it on supports far larger. Now, the last kind of random thing that happens in the whole run is whether these hunters decide to come down this staircase to attack you. And if they do, and they decide to block your path, then you have to clear them out with the rocket launcher, which again wastes a couple of seconds. And now we've placed the last chip, and that's the end of the game. We get to hear the one music track that this game has to offer, and watch the really long ending screen, which has a lot of very fancy writing. That's typical of this game. The terminals, which I just smashed my way through, are they paint a very complicated story, and there is a whole web page and a forum that went for years discussing the story of this game series and trying to figure out what various messages mean. Anyway, we're not here for that. We're here for the speedrun. So that was a 29:16. That's actually not the world record or my fastest time. That would be a 29:10, but that run was played with a slightly older version of the route. So this is the current route, and should have the potential to have the fastest times. I'm sure if I were to practice this for a marathon, that I would beat that 29:10 pretty quickly as soon as I got a run that did not die on a converted church in Venice, Italy. That's the level where we warp through a door. So I hope you enjoyed this run. I think it has an interesting combination of switch sniping, just fast movement, avoiding enemies that are spewing tons of bullets at you, killing enemies that are spewing tons of bullets at you, and various clutch moments, especially blazing your way through Acme Station, which was, for casual players, always a really difficult challenge, is very satisfying. You know, not many games let you dual-wield shotguns up and down a evacuated space station. Anyway, we're almost at the end of the chapter screen, which has a little call out to a game that Bungie would not work on or produce for a long time. So this is some really highfalutin stuff about how the protagonist never dies. He's just able to regenerate over and over and try until he succeeds at these very, very unfair battles. And so, in the quantum moment before the closure, when all become one moment left, one point of space and time, I know who you are. You are destiny. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching.